Oh, you're gonna love this, Jay. I'm I'm about as scent conscious a human. I'm almost anal retentive over it. My clothing doesn't come in my house. My hunting stuff does not enter my house ever. Has not since it was bought. Not piece one. I can walk over right now and touch my ghillie if I go put a rubber glove on.
If you put a rubber glove on?
Yes.
Okay.
I hunt from the ground. My loving wife got me to get away from the tree stands, and it's nothing, I'm not saying that's not a great tactic. It just, from hunting in the mountains where I live, I just can't see carrying that weight. I'm getting too old for that.
Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 255. Michael Yates, Tennessee Ground Hunting Tactics and Hunter Efficiency. Support for the Big Buck Registry and the Deer Hunt Podcast comes from Hunter's Blend Coffee. Awaken your hunt with coffee purchased directly from farmers around the world, creating jobs and alleviating poverty. Hunter's Blend Coffee, we're hunters too. Polar Works Coolers and the Chill Zone, specializing in the most durable, reliable thermal cups and coolers. Keep your drinks hot or cold in any element. Black Ash Outdoor Products reduce your risk of tree stand suspension trauma with a Tree Stand Wingman, the Tree Stand Emergency Descender System. Covert Scouting Cameras, remote cameras for hunting, wildlife, and security. Morse's Sporting Goods, a full line of sporting goods without the sales tax. And Big Buck merch. You can get cool, high-quality Big Buck t-shirts, long-sleeve t-shirts, and hoodies. And show support for this podcast by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/MERCH. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Lieutenant David Gregory with Vermont Department of Fish and Wildlife Law Enforcement Division, and you're listening to our favorite podcast, the Big Buck Registry.
Hi, everybody. This is Doug Laird, and I shot the world record antlered doe. You're about to listen to my favorite podcast, the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey, this is Hal Blood from Big Woods Bucks, and you're about to push play on my favorite podcast, the Big Buck Registry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow predators. My name is Jay, and thank you for tuning in to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. For Dusty Phillips and Jim Keller and the entire staff here at the Big Buck Registry, welcome to this week's show. There are a couple things I'd like you to do for us if you could. If you would, please check us out on iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. With your help, we're going to try and push this show up the iTunes charts. I know we have a lot of listeners out there, and I need you to take some action. I need you to leave a review and subscribe to the show. If you do subscribe, that'll give you access and notification each and every week that a new show is released. You can also access this show in its entirety on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. It's all right there for you to access on demand at your fingertips. Regarding the harness program, we have an ample supply of harnesses to give away from our volunteer donors. If you're in need of a full-body harness, please send an email to j@bigbuckregistry.com. We've heard the expression, hunt the wind, over and over. Many of us base our entire hunt on exactly that concept. But what if that was all wrong? Did your head just explode? Mine did when I heard this from Michael Yates, part of the group of hunters that Bill Vale has organized at Pressured Deer Pros. I had to dig deeper, so I put Michael on the mic stand to discuss, amongst other things, hunter efficiency, ground disturbance, hunting upwind and not downwind, several ground hunting tactics, and ambush setups. We'll turn to our entire interview with Michael Yates in just one moment, but before we do, let's hear from our friends at Polar Works Coolers and Jim Keller with the Deer News. Folks, I want to tell you about one of the best coolers I've found for the price in quite a while. I was with my family the other day, and I couldn't believe the price on the cooler I was looking at. I always wanted one of those high-end coolers because of the quality that I had heard of, but I couldn't justify the price. Then I found Polar Works. Finally, I found a company that understands quality and affordability. The Polar Works lineup is extensive and is filled with Polar cups, Polar tubs, and Polar soft coolers. What do I love about these coolers? Well, for one, the ice stays frozen for a long, long period of time. But they've thought of other things in their design. For example, drain speed. No one likes a slow drain after a long weekend on the trail. The Polar Lock system. You're always protecting your valuable beverages from thirsty outsiders. And there's the non-slip Polar Feet. Polar Feet will prevent sudden movement when you're on the move. There's the sweat-free material, so you don't have to worry about cleaning up puddles when you're finished with your journey. Polar tubs hold ice for such a long period of time because of the 3-inch insulated walls, the heavy-duty gaskets, and the fail-proof hinges, which guarantee a freezer-tight seal. So check out polarworks.com when you're considering your next high-quality cooler without breaking the bank. That's www.polarwerkz.com.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. Our first story this week, Legacy of a Whitetail Deer Hunter. Josh Brolin leads Netflix father-son comedy. This story is from the Collider.com website and was reported by Adam Chitwood. The Collider.com website exclusively debuted the first trailer for filmmaker Jody Hill's new film, The Legacy of a Whitetail Deer Hunter. The comedy stars Josh Brolin as a celebrity hunter who brings his estranged son, Montana Jordan, and trusted cameraman Danny McBride on a hunting and bonding weekend that will form the bones of a new special he's producing. But as mishaps and hard truths ensue, the film morphs into a heartfelt father-son story while maintaining the particular sense of humor that's made Hill's previous works so successful. Hill co-wrote the screenplay with McBride and John Carcieri, his partner on the excellent HBO shows Eastbound Down and Vice Principals. And Legacy of a White Hunter is a great showcase for the trio's talents to balance hilarious comedy with the genuinely heartfelt drama of a father-son story. Check out the Legacy of a Whitetail Deer Hunter trailer on the Collider.com website. The film also stars Carrie Coon and Scoot McNairy and premieres on Netflix on July 6th. Georgia hunters could have gone to jail for this in Bibb County, but it was okay in Houston County. This story is from the Macon.com website and reported by Wayne Crenshaw. For years, hunters in South Georgia could hunt deer over bait, while those in a line that runs from Bibb County north could go to jail for it. But a vote by the Georgia Department of Natural Resources Board now effectively makes hunting deer near bait legal statewide on private property. It will take effect in the hunting season this fall. The issue was discussed in the General Assembly this year, but the legislature could not come to an agreement on whether to make the law uniform throughout the state. While DNR cannot change the law, it can change the hunting zones. The board voted to essentially do away with the northern zone, making the baiting law uniform statewide. The state had been divided into a north hunting zone and south hunting zone, with the dividing line running through middle Georgia. Upson, Crawford, Bibb, Jones, and Baldwin counties were on the north, while counties south of those were in the southern zone. The law on hunting deer over bait was the only significant difference made between the two zones. With Wednesday's vote, the board changed the zone lines to make only the Chattahoochee National Forest the northern zone, and the rest of the state is now in the southern zone. Making the law uniform will free up game wardens to spend more time on other things. Last year, the DNR estimated the state's deer population to be 1.27 million, up from 960,000 in 2005. How lawsuits impact wildlife funding. This story is from the Realtree.com website and was reported by the Boone and Crockett Club. Legal defense costs are an increasing drain on conservation funding today. Alarmed by the trend, the Boone and Crockett Club has launched a new examination of federal statutes that enable ongoing litigation at a high cost to wildlife and the American taxpayer. The club's primary concern is the Equal Access to Justice Act, the EAJA, which reimburses organizations that successfully sue federal agencies for noncompliance with federal law. Although well-intended, abuses of the EAJA are escalating into a modern conservation issue with potentially severe long-term consequences. EAJA was written to reimburse legal costs incurred by small nonprofit organizations along with for-profit organizations with net worth of less than $7 million. However, in America's two largest animal rights groups have filed numerous cases under EAJA even though their 2009 combined net assets exceeded $209.6 million and cash balances exceeded $44.5 million. Another abuse uncovered, in 2008, an animal rights group won a legal ruling regarding wolves and petitioned a federal court in Missoula, Montana for $388,370 in attorney fees. The judge awarded $263,099, which is based on an hourly rate of $300, even though the federal limit is $125 per hour. In 2007, the same litigant was awarded $280,000 following a similar case in the Great Lakes area. The defendant in both cases was the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, whose budget, regardless of whether it's spent on wildlife or lawyers, is financed by a combination of sportsmen's fees and tax dollars. Indirect costs are considerable too. Nearly all resource management proposals are now subject to ever higher hidden fees as federal agencies spend more and more time and resources on elaborate environmental impact statements and other attempts to suit-proof their decision-making processes. In some cases, where the intent of the lawsuit is to stop a proposed federal action, the delays in cost to a federal agency can derail time-sensitive projects even if the eventual court ruling goes against the plaintiffs. Along with wildlife and other public land and water-based resource agencies that deal with energy, timber, agriculture, livestock, and fisheries also are increasingly impacted by legal actions taken under the provisions of the EAJA. EAJA clearly encourages frequent legal challenges by some nonprofits that are, in reality, big business. These organizations are literally making their living by suing a variety of government agencies. Does EAJA, especially its payments to successful litigants with no reciprocal penalties for losses in court, still make sense today? EAJA needs intensive review. Appropriate modifications could help make the laws that are more effective, efficient, and resistant to courts deciding wildlife management policies via taxpayer-subsidized lawsuits. The Boone & Crockett Club will continue studying this problem. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Well, thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here is Michael Yates. Michael Yates and Bill Vale, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you guys?
Doing good, Jay. How are you?
Doing quite well. Thanks for asking. What's going on, Bill?
I'm doing well myself.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys coming back on the show to talk more about pressured deer. You guys are setting the path towards understanding pressured deer, and you've become the pressured deer pros. And there's a lot of stuff that you're uncovering with your research and opening up this information to the world, which is priceless. So I'm interested to hear more about that and get Michael's take on it.
Okay. When I met Michael about 5 years ago, thereabouts, I was in the middle of trying to prepare for a wintertime hunt, trying to get around everything under the sun to stay warm. And I believe I weighed myself and I was wearing like 75 pounds of clothing. Well, then I get a phone call, and it's this guy from the South with a deep Southern drawl.
Right.
And we get to talking for a minute, and we start talking about hunting. And I'm kind of, pressed because I'm trying to figure out my gear for the morning. And I mentioned to him my problem. And he said, well, I thought you'd have that all figured out, being up there in Michigan.
Right.
And to make a long story short, he's got a dress system that I now fully endorse. It's absolutely the most lightest weight, flexible dress system that I've ever. I went from wearing, 75 pounds of clothes to down to I know I'm under 20 pounds, even with my boots, with the clothing. And I fully endorse that dress. But anyway, he's a very knowledgeable, wise, and prudent gentleman. And he'll leave no stone unturned to uncover the truth. His hysterical humor and lovable voice is only exceeded by his tenacity and blood, sweat, and guts in the field. Yet he remains humble, and I am humbled myself by this awesome bow hunter. So without any further ado, I know Michael's ready for the world. I hope the world is ready for Michael.
Very good. All right, Michael. So how does a guy from the South get so inclined with proper gear to hunt cold weather?
Well, Jay, and thanks again for having me on. You are our voice. I appreciate it more than anything you'll ever imagine.
Oh, that's my pleasure.
I didn't always live here in the South. I lived in Missouri for 15 years, and, northern Missouri, pretty much November on, snow on the ground.
Gotcha. All right. So you've been exposed to it, and still Missouri is not as far north as I'm at or Bill's at. So you had to have some kind of a keen sense to instruct a guy from Michigan to, hey, you can dress down. You don't have to carry all this bulky stuff.
Well, yes. The reason that I came about that was, okay, hunting back home here in Tennessee in the mountains, okay, it's not something that I just can't turn around and come out in 30 minutes.
Right.
Okay, so if you're not prepared mentally and gear-wise, then it's going to be pretty miserable. You have a weather shift or something, you have to be able to deal with it, Johnny, on the spot.
Makes sense.
So I took that over to, even when I was in Missouri, I hunted some 15 below days all day, daylight to dark. And that's a testament to the equipment, not so much my tenacity. I don't like being cold and I don't like being miserable.
Nobody likes that, as far as I know, anyway.
Well, I had to kind of go against the grain on that to break people out of that mentality.
All right. So you're akin to getting people to think differently about a subject matter that we've thought we knew for, traditionally a long time.
Yes.
Good.
If you're happy with what you're doing, don't change by all means. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way, but expecting a different result.
Right.
So, if it's working for you, don't change. But if it's not, then guess what? You're the problem. You need to change.
Good point. Let's talk about deer hunting in a sense that you guys are focused on pressured deer, and you're saying that there's less hunting land that's available to us as hunters. There are more hunters, and some of the numbers state that there are less hunters in the world, but that the deer hunter numbers are staying pretty constant. So understanding that more land might be getting gobbled up and that the hunters themselves are probably putting pressure on the deer, how do you deal with that? What's your perspective?
Well, what has happened out, and it doesn't matter whether you're hunting a private farm in Kansas or you're hunting public land here in Tennessee or, in the South. There's a point of the pressure that, you can even watch it. Okay. You used to be able to get a lease or whatnot, a couple of dollars an acre, a handshake and go hunt. Well, guess what? That's about few and far in between now, isn't it?
Right.
So that should be a clear indicator of, okay, the pressure not only to acquire land to do this on is shrinking. Not so much the hunter capacity, but the land to do it on is shrinking. The permission to do so.
Right.
So we get into habitat and trying to keep more deer per acre.
Good point. Yeah. So it seems like there's less land available for a multitude of reasons.
Yes.
So what's left over is the land that is available gets accessed by hunters and thereby increasing the pressure on the deer themselves.
Yes.
Okay.
And the pressure will only get worse.
Gotcha.
It's a conditioned response of the deer.
Makes sense.
It wouldn't matter if you and your brother bought a farm or something. Y'all are the pressure.
Right.
And the hunters fall into the same trap of same thing, same way. Hey, we park here, we get out here, we go in here then, which, you're just conditioning them to what you're doing.
All right. I'm going to ask a question that's kind of an obvious question, I think. Does that mean that because deer are conditioned this way, that the hunting gets easier or gets harder?
Well, it gets harder. And on the conditioning factor, it's because we as hunters were conditioned actually to hunt a different way, but we went against what we were taught. Being when white man learned to hunt from the Indian, it was stalking. You want the wind in your face.
Right.
And come up from behind them. Well, then we as white man got lazy and figured, well, we'll stand and wait them out. Well, the wind in the face number don't work. But yet countless times, everyone keeps expecting the deer to break the wind rule, and they never will.
So how do we start to and going back to your, let's rethink this a little bit. Now that we've conditioned ourselves to do the same thing over and over, and by doing so, we've conditioned the deer to do the same thing over and over, and that the deer hunting is getting more difficult. How do you start to change your ways when the deer are predicated on survival? Like, they think they know what to do. How do you beat their natural instincts to survive?
Okay, that's a good and juicy question, Jay.
It sure is.
that's a good and juicy one. Well, our technology, our science, and our tactics are to the point now to where everyone get ready to take a note on this. We can accurately predict what a buck is going to do before he knows.
Okay.
Yep, I said that, folks.
You did say that. You said that loud and clear. All right, so
okay.
So now that heads are exploding, what?
Oh yeah, here comes the hate mail, I'm sure.
Right. How is this possible? How, based off of what can we and you guys make that statement? That's a pretty bold statement. So what can we do to back it up?
Okay, let's go through some of our scenarios of our tactics as well as what we used to get us to this point. Okay, let's go out with our Cybro scouting and mapping. Okay, there's more to mapping than just, we're looking at terrain features. Well, yes, we are. But what does the wind do in that terrain? Have you ever mapped the wind?
That's a good question. I mean, I haven't seen a wind map before.
I have.
Okay.
That comes from seeing how wind that comes from seeing how wind reacts to, high low pressure, how it travels by an object. This is pretty much, you could almost say aerodynamics.
Right.
It's a constant study in it. Well, when you add that to the wind rule, because this is one that Bill and I preach so much on the wind rule, and everyone knows this, but they refuse to apply it.
So you say wind rule, and this is, I mean, this wind's been blowing for as long as Earth's been around.
Yes.
Right.
We do not know from where it comes to where it goes.
Can I cut in here just for a second, fellas?
Absolutely, Bill.
Okay, well, the wind rule originated in tracking. In other words, after trailing so many hundreds of deer, 4 people and ones for myself, and Rick and I made a startling discovery. If they live for any length of time at all, they will travel quartering directly into the prevailing wind at that time. And I have never trailed one that has not done it. Well, then, after studying them, we figured out that when they're in cover and when they're traveling and seeking, they do a nose wind approach. And so what Michael's trying to say is that if you have the wind in your face and the deer are traveling into the wind, that puts them going away from you. So anyway, that's our wind rule.
That's a good rule. Let's restate that again, just so everybody is crystal clear on what that means.
Okay. The way that I can restate it is everyone knows deer live and die by their nose.
Right.
Okay. Deer are never going to travel where they don't have the wind in their favor.
Makes sense.
Simple analogy on that. If the wind is out of the north, what way is every deer going to travel? To the north.
To the north.
Okay. The scent industry, if you're blowing away from the deer and you put out Daisy Doe, if the deer can't smell it, he's not coming to it. It's blowing away from him.
Right. Basics. Fundamentals.
Yes. And back to the conditioning of the hunters of the wind in the face mentality. How can that work? It can't. So you have to 180 degrees back around to see. Of course, this is coming as shock to, a lot of the listeners out there. How can that be? Yes, we blow right at the deer.
It forms one of those equations in your head, like, how can this be? Like it's
Yes.
it's confusing in a sense that you've been conditioned to stay downwind.
Yes.
But you're saying
it was,
that if I'm downwind, those deer are not going to be walking towards me. They're going to be walking
they never
away.
will.
Right.
Every
they
time.
They might, but they're going to come up behind you if they do.
Right. So, if I'm looking north and the wind's blowing from the north, the deer are most likely going to come from the south, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So
I can build you a real quick scenario on this.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys will hunt the edge of a river and they'll float across the river, and this is all good. And they'll climb up in a tree on the edge, and they'll say, now there, I have no entry trail. I've got the wind in my face, and I'm blowing right across the river. If the deer uses this run going east and west in front of me, there is absolutely no way that this deer can smell me. The problem is with we'll say a north wind, and it's blowing across the river, deer aren't going to go east and west. They're gonna go to the north. So what I do in that situation is I come across the river with the wind over my back. In other words, we enter with the wind, not with the wind in our face, which once again is what the industry teaches. Then we get within shooting distance of the edge. And even if you spook a buck on entry, he's only going to circle around and go to the river's edge that night anyway, because now I'm sitting within shooting distance of the edge of the river, and all the deer being drawn to the edge of the river. Now who's downwind?
Right.
So, and person say, well, aren't you sitting with the wind in your face? No, I'm sitting with the wind hitting me on the left side of the face, and I'm going to be shooting off to my left side.
Okay. So
that's how we draw the deer. We look at the wind as a giant vacuum cleaner. So anyway, Michael, jump back in there.
So
Okay. Well, go ahead, Jay.
I just want to point out that you guys are making a bold, contradictory statement to what everybody has said for a long time, and that's to play the wind, but play the wind so that the wind's in your face.
Well,
What's your answer to that?
Again, that was the conditioning that they were taught by the Indian, and it's been passed on. Okay, that is a technique for stalking. It is not a technique for stand hunting.
Okay. All right. And that's the differentiator here.
Yes.
Right.
It was because, pardon the expression, white man got lazy.
Gotcha. That's the line. That's the line between, you're talking about different styles of hunting, and if you're using a stand, then you're applying the wrong technique to that situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
But, when bringing that out, because of the conditioning, oh, no, I would never blow at the deer. Never. Okay, and you expect the deer to come to you?
So the next question that pops into my head, and I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Oh, I love this.
Is, okay, so we've been conditioned to play the wind, be downwind. You're going against that rule when hunting from a stand, not the stalking, not the tracking, not that. You're talking about hunting from a stand, bow hunting from a stand, or or even gun hunting from a stand, I guess.
Yes.
Right. Now, that being said, with all this technology that's out there, all the get scent free everything, anywhere from ozone to treating your clothes to carbon suits and all this other stuff, does that still matter based off of this idea?
Yes.
Okay.
How you apply that is what you always want to do is set that stand where this is my 1 degree rule.
Okay.
360 degrees around in a circle.
Yep.
If I give that deer 359 degrees, he thinks he's pretty much safe, ain't he?
I would think so.
If I got that 1 degree, I got him.
Right.
When you set, as you've heard Bill allude to, once you understand that wind, I can put myself in a position where it's a physical barrier that he can't get to me. He can't get to my scent string. Or, AKA, put out a scent that he wishes to smell degrees over, so he smells that to check that before he ever gets my scent.
Explain the barrier a bit more.
Okay, no different than just to keep things simple. Okay, like in a mountain, I'll use, say, if I'm hunting and I've got a 30-foot rock wall behind me.
Yep.
No way he can get behind me, is there?
Right.
Okay, that or a deep water crossing. There's a million and one, a monster brush pile, a physical barrier, and you will always find this. It's always there.
Like I can add to that and say some of the tricks that I use to beat deer on the ground in swamps and stuff is to like blow across places where the deer either can't get because of like deep mud. I call this impassable cover, and it comes in many forms. Okay, so anytime we call it a dead spot, because if you can find a place where you can blow at the deer that they physically got to go around it, they're going to be dead.
A straight open field
Is a barrier?
is a barrier, especially on a pressured deer. There is no way Snagglehorn is going to walk out in an open field in daylight.
What he's saying is he's using their caution against them.
Right.
Exactly.
That
goes against the grain of what everyone is thinking. If you're dealing with a pressured animal, he's seen the routine game. I can use a case in point, like across the mountain, we have people there that they have to hunt to live.
Right.
That's season or not. I'm trying to be nice about how I put that.
Understood. No.
Okay. Deer don't walk out in the open in daylight hours. And they don't walk out in the field at night either, because the next thing happens is a light comes on, and then Bucky took a nap right there. They will not do it, because every time that happens, something disturbs them. They will not ever give up their security.
It's an interesting perspective, because I don't think you really think of an open field as a barrier in the sense that you'd think of an obstruction. Stone wall.
I'll explain what happens on an open field in an unpressured area.
Right.
Okay. It's called tailwinding. Deer will use all their senses at one time. Okay. Remember what we said about, they're going to follow that nose?
Yep.
Okay. If I'm out in an open field, I can see if anything's fixing to bite me, can I?
Right.
I can't see behind me, though, can I?
Right.
My nose can. That wind's going to be coming over my back hip.
Sure. With a tailwind, absolutely.
Watch every hunting video ever made. You'll see that happen. And as soon as they hit cover, it's right back to wind again. Okay. A massive open cut field, that's just sheer, in daylight, that's just sheer death.
It's a fascinating concept. And I'm not saying it's even an idea. I'm saying it's like science, right?
Yes.
Survival of the species.
It's another reason that I'll use, you'll hear me, I will not hunt a food plot. Because what do you see around there mostly? You see non-target species, don't you?
Sure.
Okay. That being does, young bucks, blah, blah. That's a lot of extra eyes, ears, and noses you have to fool. I could sneak up in cover and smack you in the back of the head, and nobody would know. If I stood you out 50-yard line of the Super Bowl, and the crowd would let you know if I made one move towards you, I'm pretty much beat before I started, wasn't I?
Yeah.
That's the standard scenario.
Also, hunting food plots, unless you can do it in the evening, early season, and you've got one nailed on camera that's screwing up, it's a bust, because if you go try to hunt in the morning, if the deer are there, you run them out before you get in the tray. And at night, even if they all come out after dark and the buck's waiting nearby in the cover, and then you get down out of your stand and run them off, it just doesn't work. I don't like to hunt that way either.
Now that's that's a whole other perspective that I don't think a lot of people even think about. Well, I'm not going to.
Well, these are some
though.
of the mistakes that that we are here to teach.
Yeah.
Everyone this. This is why we have our Tactical Whitetail University, is so that we can teach the people and save them the heartache of doing it the old hardhead way. I know, I've been there. Believe me,
I believe you. I do believe it.
It took a long time to get through my thick skull.
But what?
Michael, it's time to, turn around and do something different.
Right.
Well, as soon as you do, you'll see the results. And like I said, it's no fault of any individual hunter. Like I said, again, they were conditioned to do it that way.
Right.
Their father showed them, their grandfather showed them, and through the generation. It's the wrong set, the wrong tactic for the wrong set.
Well said. And so now it's ingrained in your head, and now you're sharing it with others.
Yes. So, back at our wind.
Yeah.
Okay. Once you've seen that in effect, you'll know exactly and go, wow, I can't believe, bonehead, I was that stupid. I'm serious. You will have an epiphany moment that's just, wow. Okay. Well, then you add that in with your moon times, your temperatures, and the habitat and terrain. You're unlocking the code of what they're going to do. All of these things are predictable.
And we can do it with technology days in advance, even years in advance on the moon. That's how we get ahead of the deer. Instead of always hunting where he's been, our motto is we're going to hunt where he's going to be.
Right. All right. Help me kind of wrap my head around this whole thing. As far as, putting the moon phase together, you got, and Bill, you're a big advocate of all that, understanding the terrain and now hunting from a stand, but you're saying hunt upwind, not downwind. Help me put this together. Like, how do you figure out, and this is all hypothetical, of course, but how do you put this all together? Like, give me some, when you're all strategizing under one roof, how does the plan come together?
Oh boy, you ought to hear some of our conversations. I'm not sure some of them's PG rated, but you should hear some of them.
I'm sure. There's got to be some debate in there, right?
Oh, well, once, like I said, when I met Bill, I was trying my darndest to figure out this moon thing.
Yeah.
I pretty much had a handle on the wind, and I just got to talking to him, and it just started clicking. Well, then we started passing off ideas of stuff that we had seen in the woods that, pretty much no one else could explain. Well, then time goes by, and of the people that we started to help with these things, man, they're consistently killing. It's almost uncanny. It's got to the point where we can just about put an X on them out.
Gotcha. Bill, when you were introduced to Michael and his wind concepts, was this foreign to you, or was this something that just kind of reinforced something you had already thought about?
What it was is that I had been preaching, wind over the back entry and wind over the back hunting for a long time. Nobody seemed to get their head around it, but Michael and I shared that same concept because we understood that the deer are not going to travel, where they can't see and stuff without having the wind on their side. It's like this video we got coming up. A guy has two cameras out. The buck's walking up the 2-track, clicking camera 1 first, clicking camera 2 second. He climbs into his stand, and he's just walked by the 3 bedding areas with his wind blowing at him that the bucks are out, and he's ruined before he even gets in the tree. And the answer is not to go up 40 feet and try to blow over them. The answer is a ground blind 40 yards away. You just grossly mispositioned for the wind. The bucks are going to scent check that piece of that apple tree and that saw block that he's waiting over there. The bucks are going to scent check that before they go to it. Then they're going to walk up the 2-track. If you don't know the mythology of moving your cameras backwards and, figuring out where they're coming from, it's not enough to know where that buck's initially coming from. You got to know, I don't care if he walks into a scrape straight with the wind. That just means he's done a 360 before he did it.
That was my next question. You answered the question before I got there. It seems like this wind is predicated on knowing where the deer are to begin with, or the target buck or bucks. Like you have to have an idea of where they are.
Well, they'll attend. Now that this is the difference. Are you meat hunting or horn hunting? Okay, this is a big buck registry, so I imagine we're horn hunting.
Correct.
Okay,
right.
Whole different thing than going out meat hunting.
Right.
If you're meat hunting, hit them food plots, blast them does. Try to put them on the endangered species list. It's tenderloin and tater for everybody.
Right.
Okay, but going after a big buck, they will tend to lay in on the leeward side for their bedding on any transition. And what I mean by that is a density change in the cover around them.
So you're saying that, help me paint a picture of this a little bit more so that everybody listening to this understands. You're saying that the bucks will set up in a denser cover, a different cover from where your food plots are?
Yes.
Okay.
They will back up to a dense cover. This is a survival mode for them. Not necessarily in that super thicket right there, but they're backed up against it. And they're looking downwind of them, scanning everything there. Because for it to come through the thicket where they can't see, it's got to make all kind of noise and sent right directly to them, isn't it?
Right.
Oh, Mr. Coyote can't come up behind me, can't catch me. Okay, well, the other way, he's sitting there watching. Pretty much foolproof plan, huh?
Right.
That's what the bucks do. They do this. Well, to figure out that spot, again, what wind do you have for the day?
So
if it's a south wind, they're going to be bedded on the north side of the ridge.
That's it. Check the what would be the leeward side for that day,
so that they can the scent can carry to them.
Yep.
From the rear, like let's take a ridge point.
Yep.
Like we got a ridge finger comes out and it drops off,
Yep.
and he'll scent check that point. Then he'll go up top after he checks it and come down, tailwind out on it, and lay right down. Now nothing can flank him because he's on a point. In order to even get at him from the rear, they've got to give their scent stream to him. He doesn't even have to have cover behind him.
Yep.
And he'll put his back to a bush. And if you find a bed, whichever way his back is facing, that's what the wind was when he was there. Bank on it every time. They don't break that rule. And then they watch out in front of them. If anything comes up from behind them, they can spring where they've been watching all day. They're safe. Once they have to quit banking on their eyes anymore, at that point, they'll break into the wind and go right up top.
Now,
Every time.
Add into this, Jay. Let's go with our temperature.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of folks don't take that into light and dark. Deer are crepuscular animals. That means on the edge of light and dark.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's add that in. How long you going to lay there in the sun with a fur coat on?
Not very long.
Neither can they. So they will stand up and move. This is that movement in the bed that people, he's getting up and he'll move a few feet over, and it's just to get in the shadow.
Yeah.
Or if he's cold, it's to move into the sun. But then moon time is going to dictate when he's in that bed and when he gets out of that bed.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have the how, the when, and now you're seeing why.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, let's take a coffee break. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Michael Yates.
Hello, I'm Grant Woods, and as a wildlife biologist, I've learned through the decades that big antlers start in the dirt. It's all about quality soil. Years ago, when research clearly showed that tilling, disking, or disturbing the soil decreased the quality of soil, I changed to a no-till system. As the research progressed and more people were focused on soil health, I changed to using cover crops and keeping a living root in the soil as many days throughout the year as possible. Now our food plot systems actually improve the soil instead of degrade it, and we're growing larger and healthier deer. In a similar way, I've learned that several coffee importers don't hold the same value for natural resources that I do. They actually do things that harm the environment instead of help the environment and the people that work those coffee plantations. It's even more discouraging that several coffee importers actually support lobbyists that are against hunting and our hunting traditions. Last winter, I met Ken, Paul, and Mike, 3 brother-in-laws that love coffee and hunting. Due to their love of coffee and, quite candidly, the people that grow and process the coffee, they work to bring us Hunter's Blend coffee. Paul, Ken, and Mike buy directly from the coffee producers. This allows them to pay the producers at least twice the normal rate and be able to donate to hunting organizations. I love it when I have an opportunity to purchase from folks that want to protect our natural resources and the people working the land and protect hunting and the hunting heritage. I encourage you to go to huntersbleendcoffee.com and order some today and ask your local sporting goods retailer to stock their coffee. It's more important now than ever for hunters to stick together and support conservation of our natural resources.
And now we'll continue our discussion with Pressured Deer Pro, Michael Yates. So how do you prep yourself other than the strategy of an obstruction? In some senses, it's a physical large obstruction or a field, as you mentioned. How do you prep yourself to go into those stands to maximize your scent control and or cover?
Oh, you're going to love this, Jay. I'm about as scent conscious a human. I'm almost anal retentive over it.
Okay.
My clothing doesn't come in my house. My hunting stuff does not enter my house ever.
Yep.
Has not since it was bought. Not piece one. I can walk over right now and touch my ghillie if I go put a rubber glove on.
If you put a rubber glove on.
Yes.
Okay.
I hunt from the ground. My loving wife got me to get away from the tree stands, and it's nothing, I'm not saying that's not a great tactic. It just, from hunting in the mountains where I live, I just can't see carrying that weight. I'm getting too old for that.
Okay. Right. Makes sense. A lot of us out there like that.
Well, that's just me. And it's a lot of the places that I hunt. I mean, to be able to come in just as we have described to you, you got to put some boot leather.
Right.
You've got every ounce counts, but the routine on that is there's different versions of the scent, and I don't want to get too super technical on it. 99% of your scent comes from your breathing, period, end.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, another one that you'll get, like you'll see people, well, my bloodhound will track blah, blah. Yeah, it's called ground disturbance. You ever wonder why, a deer or whatnot smell you and you're walking in scent-free rubber boots?
Yep.
Okay, that's ground disturbance. It's not you, it's ground disturbance. Every step that you take squishes leaves, grass, displaces earth. Okay, it's ground disturbance. Okay, the problem...
It just makes sense. I mean, I've never thought of it like that.
Okay, it's not that you're leaving your scent there. It's ground disturbance.
Right.
The problem is, you ready for a insider secret?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. What in the wild has a foot big as a human?
A bear, a lion, a tiger.
Well, the tigers are not native to here. I'm not saying there couldn't be a zoo escapee, but we'll elaborate on that. Okay, you bear, mountain lion, something like that. Now, not too many of them around most places people's whitetail hunting. I'm sure you have them out east. We have them East Tennessee, like that. Okay, the problem is what you're seeing, the ground disturbance. Now, how do you minimize that?
Good question.
You ready for the
trail? Break the trail.
Here you go. Here's my solution to it. Got you some paracord and about a 2-inch diameter sapling. Saw off about a 4-inch swath of 2-inch diameter sapling.
Okay.
Tie it to the ball of your foot on each, so you have like a miniature 2-inch stilt.
Yep.
Walk to your stand. Now you're only doing a 2-inch diameter, no bigger than a deer's hoof, of ground disturbance.
Gotcha.
Have you ever noticed, like in cattle country, the deer don't pay no never mind to ground disturbance, do they?
Right.
Cows got pretty big hoof on them, and they're walking everywhere. That's one of the reasons you see an old doe stomp her foot and all. She's creating ground disturbance. It's not so much putting out the interdigital gland as it is creating that ground disturbance.
Gotcha.
That's why I insist on, making sure the last 75 yards or so to my stand, I take it right down to the dirt, because that I've had, and what they'll do, if they get a whiff of that, is they'll lay down right where they're at.
Yep.
And go no further.
And you're saying that if they smell the ground disturbance, they'll just
Yes.
shut down.
If it's out of place, it's just like it's just like an upward motion.
I have that covered, Bill. I have that covered specifically.
Go for it, man.
All right. People have used cover scents for years. Okay, I'm going to give you a wrong application of a cover scent. Let's use Fresh Earth. Okay, it's great cover scent, isn't it? Deer love it.
Yep.
Why? How did Fresh Earth get 30 foot up in a tree?
You're saying like, okay, you buy these earth scent wafers. Why is it coming 30 feet up?
Yep.
Not exactly.
How did mud, let's just say that, how did mud get slung up that tree? Something big, hairy with teeth was dragging something that was muddy up in that tree. Most mountain lions tend to drag their prey up there to eat, don't they?
Right.
That should be an alarm for a deer, right, Ricky Ticky, shouldn't it?
You would think so, in an evolutionary trait that might
yes,
be
sir. Exactly.
instinctual.
You don't want, that's something out of the ordinary. That's why I preach on the sense that you don't want something that wasn't there before you were. They will key on it, and that's an instant lockup on them.
That makes sense.
Another one is an upward motion.
Exactly.
I've had deer coming toward my stand, and they couldn't see me. And I stood up quickly, and in the instant I stood up, watch them instantly veer off. They just go around it because, an upward motion to a deer is a signal that there's something wrong. I mean, birds flush up, squirrels go up the tree when there's danger. Downward motions, are natural.
Everything is all cool.
The birds land when the woods is safe. The squirrels come down when the woods is safe. You go to draw your bow on the deer, you want to make sure that it's already up and you come straight back with it, not bring it up and pull it back. If he catches that upward motion on the corner of his eye, he'll bolt right now. And the guy says, what caused that?
Yeah. How many times have you seen, whether it's TV or you've even done it yourself, you've reached up to grab that bow off the hanger and he caught you instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly.
But if the bow is already there and you can pull
that's it
back and flat, then that's not an upward movement.
It never pay no never mind. That's why you've often heard, well, if you're a partial draw and he looks at you, go ahead and draw it. Because it's not an upward motion
going away from him. That will hypnotize him. But if you have your bow tight to your body and your first move is to push that bow out so you can pull it back, wrong move.
Right.
You won't get that second one.
So pushing towards them or up is bad.
Yes.
Pulling away from them or down is okay.
Yes.
And we're talking about, I don't know.
This is straight instinct on a deer.
Right. And you're talking.
This is why you see a squirrel pestering around in a tree.
Right. Deer
all over it. He drops a big old nut or breaks a big old limb. That deer don't even look up over it, does he?
And you're talking of the difference between, 6 to 8 inches difference in movement. But you're saying that this could make the difference in your kill or not.
Yes, sir. This is, as Bill forewarned you, on my beat it to death mentality.
This is a subtlety
that is overlooked.
Overlooked a lot.
A bunch.
Being a killer in the tree or on the ground, moving, you've got to realize that a deer can't run every time something moves or something, because that could cost him his life in pressured area. So he'll give you a second to sort it out if you don't goop it up with the wrong kind of motion.
Gotcha.
What Bill and I will call that is a 3 alarm. If you only trip 1 alarm on a deer, you'll probably kill him. You trip 2 alarms on a deer, you won't see the 3rd.
Right. That's a good way to look at it.
No, I'm telling you, you won't.
Right.
And like I said, the things available for us to teach people that they never took the time out to learn.
Right.
Is the difference in their success ratio will climb.
I think we've hit on some very key points, and examples of things like this are the things that you're teaching at your school.
Yes. That, no one has ever, you've never heard half this before.
Right.
But then when you sit and think back at the times you've been in the stand, and you've seen these very things happen, haven't you?
Absolutely. Definitely.
You know, we can't say, oh, well, this is definitive proof. You know, well, I can't say definitive proof that Einstein's theory of relativity exists.
Right.
You know, it's a theory.
Right.
But, you know, overwhelmingly, probably.
Right.
Several other, like I would like to even take some time out and a little bit on habitat. Okay.
Yeah.
We get into things with habitat. Okay. Yeah, it's great to create this deer farm. You can't just go in there and slash and quarter cut. That's you can't hunt it. You created a whitetail zoo that you can't possibly hunt because you didn't think it through before you started, and that actually made it twice as hard for you to hunt.
Also a good point. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, a lot of times that I run into situations, and it's just as important to recognize when something's unhuntable or your percentages are like zip here.
You've got to know when to say no. For instance, I'll use an example on that. If moon time says no, and wind says no, and temperature says no, that means no. You got it? That means no.
Right.
Because, I mean, you're literally, are you setting yourself up for success or are you setting yourself up for failure?
Right. If
you know it's wrong and you do it anyway, guess what? Results will not vary. You're going to fail.
The theme, and this probably is just an extension of what you're trying to do here, is that I'm getting a sense of hunter efficiency.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's the best analogy I've ever heard of it. To be efficient as possible, because we all have jobs. Mm-hmm. We all have time constraints with our families. And you have to maximize it. Now, let's use one of my classic examples. Okay, you go out, Iowa, managed ground.
Yep.
And these guys are out there filming for these hunts. It takes them 45 days of straight hunting to kill above 150-inch deer.
It's a lot.
That's their way. Now, you expect Joe Blow out here to do it on a weekend?
Right.
Is that skill or luck?
That's luck.
Now, if he trained for it, yeah, we can get it done then.
Gotcha.
But haphazardly, nah, because we go back to the old conditioned response, the old approach.
Gotcha.
So for them to do it, guess what? 45 days. You know, I will be divorced like right now if I hunted 45 days straight.
as would most.
Well, you know,
and
Rick,
I mean
Rick
right
there,
now.
You know, Rick there from our hunting team, you know, he's been my best friend for a long time, and we go way back. He's the guy that's in my book, my first book. He's been to Iowa 3 times, and he's brought back a 150-inch buck every time. And the first time it took him 5 days. The second time it took him 3. And the last time we set him up out there, I say we, I was with him, or I didn't hunt, but I just went with him to look at where to hunt and stuff. He set the stand on Friday night and was headed back to Michigan by noon Saturday morning. And that's no kidding.
That's pretty darn efficient. That's high efficiency right there.
We've done so many, and we have the customer testimonials that they just can't believe it.
Yep.
And they're like, well, there's no way you can do this from 500 miles. Oh, yes. Once you understand what you're looking at, again, we will teach you, radio land or podcast land. Right. We will teach you.
Right. So, Michael, I got to ask a question. With your ground techniques, when we were talking about playing the wind and being in a tree stand, does the technique change now that you're on the ground?
Not really.
Okay.
The differences that I will do are so subtle. I mean, literally, if you were to go hunt with Bill and I, and you were to look at each one of our setups, we would probably be describing the same place, other than he would be in a tree and I'd be sitting at the base of it.
Okay.
There's 30 foot of difference, right?
Gotcha. Everything else the same.
Yeah,
okay.
There's 30 foot. I'll take 30, every inch of it.
There's 30 foot of difference.
Right.
But that's, and there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong tree standing, whatnot. I enjoy the ground a lot more because it does give me the flexibility that the tree stand hunters don't have.
Right.
If I get that little shift of wind, you're locked in. I can take 2 steps over and sit down.
Right.
And I'm back in business. Where the tree stander's like, well, I'm going to have to go up another 6 feet to cover that. That's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
It's not,
Yep. That makes sense.
I do wear a ghillie. There is no better camouflage on planet Earth. And it's not so much about the color as it is the ability to take your shape away. You look like a predator. Little thing on it. Do you know how to tell if something's a predator, if it eats meat?
Somebody told me this once, but I don't, and I'm sure I learned it in biology class, but boy, that's escaped me.
Oh, well, it's their eyes are in front of their head.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
The good Lord made it where all predators are focused, eyes in front of their head. All prey, eyes to the side. It's the yin and the yang. It's the exact opposite. Wonder where we heard that before, huh? The exact opposite.
Right. The theme is the exact opposite.
Pretty much.
Got it. Very cool.
That way their defense is the predator's weakness.
Right.
The predator's strong point is, it's their weakness.
Makes total sense. Well, Michael, let's if you would take us on a journey with you, a memorable hunt. And let's go with some details because I want to see how all this plays out. The strategies we've been discussing. Take us on a little hunt with you.
Let me think of a good one here. Well, I'll tell you about one that I wasn't successful at. I ran out of time, but I was successful in not getting myself killed.
Okay.
I was hunting my mountain back home, and I'm way off in the back, and literally where I was hunting, if they rolled down the next bench after I killed them, they rolled into Alabama. And I mean, it's steep, make a mountain go, what the heck?
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. It goes from 0 to 1,500 foot really quick.
Okay, that's steep.
And, well, I was in there, perfect. Moon time, yes, you getting up, big boy. Well, getting a lot for something. A little more humidity than expected. You ever seen the movie, The 13th Warrior?
I have not.
Fog rolling in from the south of me. And, I'm pushing it to stay there because I know he's coming up. I can hear him coming up. and I'm pushing, and I'm watching the fog come right down the mountain ridge in front of me, and now it's down in the holler. Now it's coming up. I'm like, come on. Darn it. When I say white out, I mean white out.
Gotcha.
My headlamp would shine to my shoes. That's it.
Okay. I mean, that is a whiteout. You can't see anything.
I mean, you've never seen fog like this. You'd have thought I'd done died and went to heaven. I was walking in clouds.
Right.
And I'm really struggling. And like I said, I've hunted that mountain for 30 years. 99.999% of the time, I can walk through it without a light. Don't even have to look. Can almost do it blindfolded. And I've walked back to where my four-wheeler should be. I can't find it. I can't even find the road.
It's that thick. Gotcha. You're hunting in a cloud.
Yes. I can't even find the road.
That's crazy.
Because on that end of our property, we don't do a lot of traffic.
Right.
On it. As far as riding four-wheelers, this, that, and the other. So it's not really well defined. But I know the other side of that road, you're coming to about a 40-foot cliff. And I don't mean it's a gradual. I mean, it's one step. You will die of starvation before you hit the ground. Yeah, that's a drop.
Yeah.
And I've pushed it as close, and I'm like, I know, I'm right here. Well, you can't use GPS because, hell, it can't even get through the clouds. Got my compass out. I'm dead nuts. Where is this at? I go back to where I was hunting, make it back to where I was hunting, and come back again. Did that 4 or 5 times.
Right.
I'm in panic mode now because on that end of our property, you don't got cell service.
It's getting thicker. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, okay. I went as close as I dared, thinking, all right, that road's got to be here. Got to be here. I said, well, what it is, I'm just going to have to spend the night where I'm at. so be it.
Right.
I'm not wet. I'm not uncomfortable or anything. So I've got from where I used to tree stand hunt, I've got a 30-foot strapper, to hoist my bow up. I tie it to a tree.
Yep.
And I'm going out in 30-foot swaths gathering me some firewood. Because I'm fixing to build a fire they can see from New York City. And got me 3 or 4. And I go back toward the north there, and right at the end of the strapper, boom, I run into my four-wheeler. Literally, walk into it.
That's crazy.
Okay. Well, that's most of the problem solved. So, cool. So now I go back and undo the strapper and look at my kick marks on the ground to get back to the four-wheeler. And this is only 30-foot difference on the four-wheeler, all the lights on the four-wheeler, my headlight. I've got a 1,000,000 candle spotlight right at the ground, and I'm just inching to get back to our cabin.
Yep.
Drive the four-wheeler all the way to our generator shed, literally run it into it. Boom, found it. Walk around, start our generator, lights all in the cabin, everything. You can't even see the lights come on in the cabin.
That's crazy.
Go on in there, plug my phone in, call my wife, honey, ain't no way I'm coming in. I try to go down the rest of this mountain, I will be dead, back broke.
Right.
They can't even get a life flight in here for me.
Right.
Which, that's a little fun thing about being prepared and know when you're at a losing battle.
Right.
There was no way if I would have kept walking, that would have got ugly.
Right. Not
that you could have really got lost, but you step off one of them cliffs like that, you're subject to break something.
Right. Great story, man. Great story. All right. Entertain me with 10 rapid fire questions here, Michael.
Okay.
All right. What's your number one hunting tip of all time?
Wind rule.
Wind rule. Got it.
Wind rule. Never break it.
Okay. What's the one thing that drives you crazy if you leave it at camp or if you leave it in the truck or on the four-wheeler? You don't have it with you at your location during the hunt. If you leave it there, it drives you nuts if you don't have it with you. What's that one thing for you?
That'd be a good one. Well, I've left so many things over the years. Would you believe I've left my boots one time?
I've done that before. Oddly enough, yes. But yeah, I believe that.
I literally wore Crocs.
Yep.
And hunted.
Same here. It's.
I don't recommend walking the mountains long with them. It'll make your ankles hurt like you ain't never.
No, and they don't do well in swamps either, by the way.
No.
I found that out the hard way. What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
Hunting related or overall?
Overall, just in life.
The common sense that is so uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest pet peeve.
Yep, I can see that. How old are you today, Michael?
I am 48.
You're 48. What would you tell the 24-year-old Michael Yates, knowing what you know today?
Here's one for the hunters. Valentine's Day. Beware.
All right. You'll have to explain that one just a bit further for those that can't do math.
Okay. All hunters, pay attention to this, especially young hunters. Chocolates and teddy bears are poisonous to young ladies. 9 months to the day is November 3rd.
There you
That's
go.
18 years later before you get a pass for rut hunt again.
Mm-hmm. And there you have it. Okay. You meet a stranger at a hotel lobby at a hunting convention somewhere in the world, and they ask you what you do for a living. What do you say?
What I want to do or what I have to do?
How does the conversation go?
Well, that's the true question of it is how the conversation goes. To be able to totally fund everything that I want to do in life, I'm going to have to get a heck of a lot better JOB. And you know what a JOB is, don't you?
Explain.
That's just above broke.
Gotcha.
Or just over broke. For the majority of my life, I had been an over-the-road truck driver.
Okay. Very nice. All right. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
2 cups of coffee.
All right. Very good.
24 ounces, black.
All right. Heavy duty. All right. You get your own billboard on the side of a highway. It's a blank canvas. You can put anything you want on it. What would it say?
Well, in the Southern drawl, hey, y'all, we do it all.
That's a good one. All right. If I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
Glenn St. Charles.
Glenn St. Charles. Okay. Very good. What's a typical day in your life look like?
Wake up about 2 p.m., start drinking coffee, head out to work. Now, during deer season, whole nother ball game.
All right. And what's that look like for you? What's a typical deer hunting day for you?
Well, see, here's the cool thing about me working third shift.
Mm-hmm.
If I give up the sleep, I can hunt. That's the best way I can put it.
All right.
I give up the sleep, I can hunt. So pretty much any given day of the week, I can do it.
Okay. Gotcha.
You know, and pretty much anything during the day I can do, I just have to give up the sleep.
Gotcha. All right. That makes sense. Well, those are the 10 rapid fire questions. You did quite well. Thank you for going through that exercise with me.
Oh, gee, what a score. A 10 out of 10?
10 out of 10. You got it.
Hot dog.
100%. So if people listening to this have more questions, or if we've not answered questions that we should have asked, or perhaps we even created a whole slew of others, I don't know. Where can
I hope we did.
We probably did. Where can we reach out to you guys, Pressure Deer Pros, to get more information about what you're doing and the school? How do you get involved?
PressureDeerPro.com. Call Bill, call me directly, Greg or Josh, and we'll
Everybody
proceed.
out there, we've got a movie night.
Oh, yes.
Coming up.
A movie night.
A couple of really nice videos that anybody can watch.
Wednesday, we're going to have a movie night. That we're going to show a few setups and all the stuff that we do and how we do it.
Okay.
Well, we're also going to have a live chat.
No kidding.
Yes.
And which date is this? Which Wednesday?
This would be 2 days from now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry on that. Now, we will have more, I'm sure. I think it's going to be a great success. And what we're going to do is show some setups and stuff like, let's just say, the sucker stand. Okay.
Gotcha.
And we're going to have live and real-time question and answers right there. And we're going to offer out for everyone that registers for our Q&A and our chat and to watch the movie, we're going to offer out a 3-month free membership to Pressure Deer Pro.
Nice.
So they can actually see what we are capable of.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah. Hope to see you on there.
Very cool. Excellent, guys. Well, I appreciate your time, Michael and Bill, and coming to the show, bringing those little subtle differences that we probably don't think about a whole lot as we go through our hunts. And I think you're starting to paint a picture of what it is that you're bringing to your community through Pressure Deer Pros and what you can get and we just touched on two things, really, two basic things, but it's those things that are endless that you are teaching. So I can see the advantage to make your hunt more efficient. This is the way to go.
Everyone is going to have to do this sooner or later.
Right.
It's a matter of time. It's one of those pay now or pay later.
Right.
And if you go ahead and get it over with now, then the time that you should be enjoying it, voila, you don't have to go through the learning curve that we've already went through. You know, remember, as my quoting earlier about being thick-headed to bonehead. Believe me, there's nothing they're ever going to do in the woods that I ain't done long before.
Thanks to Michael and Bill for coming on the show and talking about some strategies that might be a little bit controversial. But, hey, those guys seem to be getting it done in the woods, so we're going to pay attention to that. Bill and Michael and the entire team over at Pressure Deer Pros would like to let you know that they're offering a little something special for anybody that's listening to this. And they're going to have an open video day on July 11th. And I believe it's going to be on the Facebook page from 8:30 to 10 p.m. So if you join in on that chat that day, 8:30 to 10 p.m. on July 11th, you will get, courtesy of Pressure Deer Pros, 3 free months of their gold membership. That includes new videos on stand setup, habitat, and ambush strategies, and each month, hunting tips, direct access to the masters, and discounts to the store. The 2 videos that are occurring on that video day on July 11th, they are featuring the sucker stand, how we all get suckered into putting out tree stands in the wrong place. And the second one is property development and ambush by design, a 3-year journey developing a 40-acre parcel, setting up ambush spots based off of sign. So thank you to the guys over at Pressure Deer Pros for offering that up to our listeners. And again, thanks to Michael and Bill for hanging out with us for a little bit and opening up our discussions on some of the strategies that Michael uses down in Tennessee. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
We do, and I'm going outside what I normally would talk about a little bit, Jay, going into my personal hunting experience and one of my favorite all-time things to do.
The Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
This time of year, I take and just grab one of your articles of hunting clothing. Don't put no scent spray on it. Don't put nothing on it. And it's something that maybe you're retiring or you're no longer going to use, or take it out and just set it in your tree stand. And the reason why is the deer over time will adjust to smelling something new or fresh, or you figure you go all year to hunting season. What do? You climb up in your stand, let's say October.
Right.
Some people September. That right there is a fresh new thing in the tree stand.
Right.
Let's keep them on the same smells the whole year.
Right.
So take an article of clothing. Don't juice it up with scent cover or anything like that. But you can use anything that you plan to use this September for spray-wise. Squirt it on there.
Yep.
That way they are somewhat adjusted to that smell. Regardless of what you're spraying, it still stinks.
Gotcha. So you're basically telling
them. It has
them.
an odor.
You're educating them to the fact that this particular smell that is unique to you is not to be feared.
That's exactly right. So if they come in there and they're eating on, let's say you're putting out corn, mineral site, you're hunting over mineral site or a water area, put something out there that smells like you right now.
That's a great idea. I've never
That way, September, October, you climb that tree stand, you're not just scaring the death out of these deer.
Right. There's nothing to alert them.
Everybody says scent lock, scent blocker, cover sprays, those onyx, all that. Well, I mean, it all works. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's that initial hit of it that they can't adjust to right away.
Right. Dude, that's awesome. That's a great tip. I love that. Very nice. Yeah. Very, very cool. Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here in the studios with me?
Shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Instagram and Twitter @ChasingAntler, Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Likewise, you can shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com, and you can visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Twitter, which is twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Instagram, instagram.com/bigbuckregistry, and YouTube, which is youtube.com/bigbuckregistry. On YouTube, you can listen to all of our podcasts in their entirety. As far as videos are concerned, it's a boring video, but the audio content is there, so you can actually listen to our podcast. You can also listen to all of our live shows that we've done on Thursday nights when we do them, and we've gone back and re-interviewed a lot of our previous guests we had on the show just to put a face to a voice, let's put it that way. You can always listen to our show on other places as well, not just YouTube. We're found on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. And if you would like to submit a buck to our page for consideration and be featured on our page in front of 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and all of the instructions will be right there. I think that's pretty much everywhere we're at. I think that's a wrap, Dusty.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Sure is. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.